on RagnarRox.
We put the biggest publisher of the gaming industry in the dock. We investigated the early stains on EA's reputation, including the acquisition and eventual destruction of some of the most legendary developer studios in gaming history. As it turned out, proved by credible witness testimonials, Electronic Arts wasn't actually the reason for these companies' downfall. At least not in the way people think they were. But there is more on the table. Over the course of the last decade, EA received more and more criticism for the trend of trying out new business models, such as free-to-play games, microtransactions, especially in full-price titles, DRM and Day One DLCs. Now, I totally get that Electronic Arts has to evaluate new ways of getting market share. It has been the biggest publisher in the world for almost 2 decades now, and as we've seen before, large company structures always come with a loss of flexibility. Nearly 10,000 employees all over the world, and that doesn't include the developers, whose jobs depend on the company being financially profitable. EA also has shareholders that have to be kept happy in order to keep the stock valuable. I see that, but my problem is that EA's approach always seems to force it on their customers. According to Peter Moore, Electronic Arts' chief operating officer, it's the core gamers that represent the biggest obstacle for the inevitable progress of gaming, being against anything that's new. It is true, the core gamers are probably the loudest group out there, but what bothers me about that attitude is that it's talking down to the audience that made Electronic Arts what it is today. You can't help but feel that the marketing experts have the tendency to not listen to the harsh reactions of their critics, but to try to persuade them that they don't really know what's good for them. And with that approach, people get the idea that these core gamers are against everything that is not old-fashioned. And that is not true. The best example for that is Valve. Gabe Newell's company is leading the largest and most successful PC DRM platform in the world. And although it received some opposition in the beginning, it got accepted and even loved by gamers around the world pretty quickly. Valve incorporates free-to-play games in their portfolio, microtransactions, and its platform heavily supports the distribution of downloadable content for developers and publishers. But the customers overall embrace and trust it. At first glance, that might seem like unfair judgment by the community. But it's generally not what you do, but how you do it. Valve has proven that the core gamer audience is very receptive to these new business models. Games like Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2 are completely free to play without any barriers. All the things you can buy in these games have a mere cosmetic value to the player character. The designers are very careful to never sell power to their players. A golden rule for the proper design of free-to-play games. Valve even allows their community to create new additional content for their games, and if it receives enough acclaim, makes these items available for sale and offers the creators a share of the profit. Now, this is how you make your audience feel appreciated, and it gives the impression of a company of gamers for gamers. Electronic Arts has often ignored the never sell power rule for free-to-play games. True. Many developers, especially throughout the mobile gaming market, do it, but first, they're not the ones in the dock here, and second, Electronic Arts is the biggest publisher, and as that, they have an exemplary function to the game industry. Pay to win is just the beginning, that is, selling power to the player through microtransactions. The latest Dungeon Keeper mobile game even went so far that playing the game without excessive waiting time for absolute basic mechanics like digging through walls. Everybody who ever played a Dungeon Keeper knows how many walls you have to tear down over the course of even the most basic dungeon. It's nearly impossible without paying inordinately large amounts of money to skip the waiting time, which makes the game not only pay to win, but pay to play. While the game breaks the fourth wall in the first minute to tell the player in a nutshell that it is a good thing to spend money. In contrast to Valve's example, this invokes the feeling of being patronized. A legendary franchise like Dungeon Keeper gets watered down to make a quick buck on the mobile market, and you wonder why the whiny core gamers are mad about it? They have every right to be. And Henry Moore announced that in the future, every major EA franchise will incorporate free-to-play, makes it even worse. Free-to-play and microtransactions are a great way to enhance games, but only if you use it responsibly, thoughtful, and for games where it enhances the experience for good. It's not a magic bullet for milking money out of your cash cows. In this case, EA, you get away with a warning. You tried something new and you used Valve's trademark, the crowbar, for it, and you received more than once an enormous backlash. Please learn from it. Which leads me to the final topic on my list. And this one looks sinister. Marketing. Seriously, what is wrong with your marketing department? I've already mentioned earlier that EA has the biggest marketing arm in the entire gaming industry. We, the whole gaming community, struggle for decades to improve the reception of the medium as a whole in the eyes of the world. To make people understand that video games are not toys for kids, but in fact a medium that can reach farther and touch people where they've never been touched before. No, not there. Move up, higher, yeah, a little to the right, yeah, that's better. In your early years, you had a mission statement that you put on the first page of every game booklet. We are an association of electronic artists who share a common goal. We want to fulfill the potential of personal computing. We would expect you to be a paragon for the image of gaming in the eyes of the world. But what do? You embrace every cheesy gamer cliché and provoke harsh media reactions in order to gain publicity. There's an episode of Extra Credits, which I will link in the credits, which deals with this in greater detail. But here's the outline. In your campaign for Dead Space 2, you show a bunch of mothers that are grossed out by the excessive violence of your game, and underline it with the claim,
"It's revolting. It's violent. It's everything you love in a game. And your mom's gonna hate it."
You knowingly market an M-rated game to teenagers. Brilliant. You hire fake religious protesters to move against the release of Dante's Inferno in order to get the media's attention for a game which could have introduced a whole new audience to fundamental pieces of Western literature in a completely new way. Instead, you just choose the most blatant and shallow way possible. You advertised the game with the tagline, "Sin to win," on breasts. That's so cringeworthy. So now, legendary gaming IPs aren't enough anymore, so you have to start abusing classic pieces of Western literature? Is that it? I mean, did you even read the Divine Comedy? Or... okay, mindless question. In addition to that, your press spokesmen repeatedly knowingly go out to the public with statements about your games that are, simply put, lies. One example is the uproar about the newest SimCity installment that evoked an enormous shitstorm throughout the gaming community. You promised a multitude of features that weren't in the game. You also stated that the always online restriction and the dense aerial restrictions were features that would take your entire development team a year to work around. But only 2 weeks after the game's official release, a rogue programmer had built all these impossible to implement features into the game and released it in a mod. We've talked about opportunities, embracing the community's efforts and making them part of your legacy when we talked about Valve. Now, here's how to waste an opportunity to gain the faith of your audience. Instead of embracing the fans' efforts, supporting him, maybe even hiring him, you decided to ban every single account that installs this SimCity mod without warning and rob your paying customers of the right to play your game. And you are wondering why people are suspicious about the announcement that you will make every major game free to play and always on? Come on! And, by the way, you just destroyed the people's trust in another legendary gaming IP. Good fucking job. So, what's the verdict here, huh? I plead guilty of the deed. And the charge is a 3-year sentence on probation. I mean, seriously, EA, you hold some of the most beloved IPs in the entire gaming history. I want to believe in you. Stop treating your customers like a bunch of stupid sheep who don't understand the world. Instead, have the courage to make a leap of faith and restore the trust in you. Because you have the means to make more out of games and the entire gaming industry as a whole. But be aware that we are aware. Because trust isn't earned lightly. Especially when it's already been lost on more than one occasion. That was a bit too slushy, wasn't it? So, what do you think? Does Electronic Arts deserve the chance to redeem themselves in the eyes of the world? Or is EA the incarnation of the devil? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you want to hear more of my endless ramblings about video games, you might as well hit the subscribe button. Come on, you know you want to. As promised, here's a link to the open letter to EA by Extra Credits, which I've been talking about earlier. So, keep on playing and see you next time at RagnarRox.